Hello and welcome to this edition of Minstrels on the Block, where we bring you the finest singer-songwriters in the Valley area. This week's special guest is the Larry Mitchell Band. In fact, we got Larry Mitchell, Austin Solomon, and Russ Garner. What's up, guys? How y'all doing today?
Excellent.
Thought he was just too cool. So tell me about yourself. Starting with you, Larry, where were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, very nice.
Brooklyn, New York, and started playing guitar about 9.
Very cool. Yeah. And judging by what I was just seeing him just diddling around on the guitar, it paid off.
Thanks.
So Austin, where were you born?
I was born in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Very cool.
It's all right. It's a place. And grew up in South Jersey and started playing when I was in high school.
Cool. Russ?
I was born in Edison, New Jersey. Started playing drums when I was 10.
Nice. So we got the Jersey boys on here this morning.
Yes.
Very cool. So, Larry, what'd your parents do?
My mom, she worked for the union in New York, and my dad, I believe, was a iron worker, but I really don't
very
know.
cool.
So.
Were they into music at all?
I don't really know my dad that well. My mom loves music. She turned me on to Stevie Ray Vaughan and a couple other people, but she's not a player though.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just kind of like you got it just. You came by it just totally on your own.
I always wanted to. I actually started playing guitar with my mom, threw my toy drum set out the window, third story window in Brooklyn. Which is why I'm a frustrated closet drummer.
Nothing gets you on guitar like your mother throwing her drums out the window.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome. How about you, Austin?
My dad worked at Caesars, was a pit boss, and my mom was a cocktail waitress, and now she's a lawyer. And I had an older brother who plays guitar, so I guess that's kind of what got me into playing music.
Very cool.
Your dad plays too, no? Your dad no? Okay.
No. He's a good whistler.
He's a good whistler. Okay. All right.
Awesome. How about you, Russ?
Well, my mom was a computer software engineer, and my dad owned his own business, and now currently is a financial advisor. I got into music in like middle school, you know, and music was always like playing around in my house. So kind of got it into the drums when I was in the 4th grade, and they were like, "What do you want to play?" And so I just wrote that down, and that was it. Drums. Pretty simple.
So Larry, now let's go into a little bit about what initially sparked your interest in playing music. Because sometimes you, like a lot of people, come in here and their parents were musical. They played piano. They've been playing forever, and sometimes not. So it's interesting to know what sparked it for you.
I don't remember a time without some sort of music. I know I had a toy guitar at like 2 or 3, because I have pictures of that. My mom said I used to strum the broom. I used to grab the broom when Elvis would come on the radio.
Nah, thank you very much.
So I don't remember a time without some sort of music. There wasn't any instruments, other instruments around, or anyone playing instruments around, but I don't know.
You just kind of came to you celestially.
Yeah, I guess so.
So now, when you were coming along, tell me a little bit about some of your early musical influences. You mentioned Stevie Ray Vaughan.
I'm a huge Prince fan. I remember listening to that first Prince record and just going, "What's going on?" Just like, it was pretty amazing to me.
Yeah.
And then there was a band across the street across the next building, called Brass Construction. They used to rehearse, and that was a live band, and with horns, like a huge band. They would rehearse in the basement, and I remember that being really, really cool, interesting. And there were, we had block parties, and bands would play there, so I would stand there and watch those guys and stuff like that.
Cool.
I don't know. Anything with music. I used to watch Hee Haw, and watch
yes.
Roy Clark, and he would have Chet Atkins on playing, and I would just sit there going, "That's amazing." I wasn't really paying attention to what kind of genre music it was. Right. It was just some guys playing banjo and guitar, or 2 guitarists, and it was just absolutely amazing.
For all of Hee Haw's hilarity, which these guys are from Jersey, but it's hilarious even down here. But they did have some professional, great musicians on there.
Yeah, just cutting up, having fun, smiling, and playing like terrifying music. It was great.
Yeah. How about you, Austin?
You know, I just kind of fell into it just serendipitously, I guess. I moved around a lot, so I had, just moved back to the Jersey Shore and was living in California for a while and just listening to punk rock and skateboarding, and then moved back to Jersey and didn't really do any of that stuff anymore, and kind of guilted my mom into buying me a bass. And
Yes.
guilt your parents into buying you things.
That's the last question of the show. Now, what were some of your early influences musically?
When I first started out, I think like a lot of bass players these days, I was really into Red Hot Chili Peppers and Rancid and punk rock and the Police. I love the Police, and that was the kind of stuff that sort of got me interested in playing music instead of just listening to it.
Right.
And then once I started playing bass, it evolved from there and started listening to jazz and expanded my horizons a little bit. But at first, I just punk rock, man. That was it.
Punk rock. How about you, Russ?
Well, early in my music career, I was listening to a lot of like rock and 80s thrash metal, like old Metallica and Megadeth and Slayer and stuff like that. And then some of my friends later in middle school and earlier in high school turned me on to jazz and Miles Davis and stuff like that. And that's when I really got into, I guess, deeper into music, around high school, and played the jazz band and stuff like that. So pretty much started on metal, but slowly worked my way through a lot more genres and R&B and stuff like that as I got older, and
Diversification.
yeah, exactly. When you're young, you're kind of stubborn, so I was kind of like, I didn't really want to listen to all these other genres.
Jazz?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what this is or whatever, so. But eventually got to it.
Then later you realize
Appreciate
how
it.
cool jazz is.
Exactly, yeah, I love it now.
I read an article once about jazz and chicks, so yeah, research it yourself. Now, Larry, tell me a little bit about your progression of playing and writing and getting started with all of this.
Well, I played in bands on Long Island, and then finally got into a band called Rhythm Team in New York City. And then from there, I started playing with lots of other bands in New York City, and led to my first tour in 1988. Miguel Bosé, he's a big Spanish-Italian singer. His mother was an Italian model, and his father she was famous, and his father was a famous Spanish bullfighter.
Yeah.
And so my first tour was, I think the biggest crowd there was 90,000 people.
Wow.
And so we did a lot. The average in Spain was probably about close to 20. So that was a good way to start the tour, start touring and stuff like that.
So how did it weave from playing in all these different bands to I'm going to be the front man to the Larry Mitchell band?
Well, after that tour, I came back, and I'd always written some songs and put together a band. I had management at the time, put together a band, and we were looking for New York. We auditioned probably about 40 singers in New York City. And the ones that could sing were crazy.
It happens.
And the ones that were nice couldn't sing.
Yeah.
So I was eager to get started, so we just did it. And there was a lot of instrumental music. Eric Johnson's record had just come out, and it was really doing real well. And Steve Vai and Joe Satriani were doing really well. And so we just decided to do the first thing instrumental, and if we found a singer, we'd go from there.
Right.
And I've done different projects with singers, but still haven't found a singer yet. Although we are in a band here in Alabama.
Oh, cool.
Called Southern Fried Funk, and we have a singer named Jason McMillan, and also Kenny Hurd, who plays keyboards and sings, and both those guys have really great voices. So we'll be next year, 2014, we'll be.
So Austin, what kept you in it once you got in it?
It's fun, man. It's just a lot of fun to play, and it was something that I was not necessarily drawn to from a young age, but once I started playing music, got really into it and just loved it and enjoyed it more than playing sports or, going to school. I just couldn't wait to get home and play every day, and I'm kind of still that way, like 12 years later. I just can't wait to go home and play music.
When it's in you, it's in you. How about you, Russ?
I I really got into it, let's see, probably like sophomore year of high school. I wasn't really too into playing drums like through middle school. I mean, played in some bands, and what really kept me in it was how much fun I was having as my skills progressed, and like got to play in jazz band and really form my own bands in high school and stuff like that. And just, you know, it's great when you find the right musicians and they're your friends, and you just get along, and you start over the years like playing and developing a chemistry, and it's pretty cool. So I got kind of a special, like, I guess, upbringing with that, because I got to play with some really special musicians in high school that I still maintain a relationship with now. Cool. So it's, you know, I got to progress and see how much fun. Basically, what Austin said, it's just been tons of fun. So why stop? I mean, exactly, it's the best thing ever.
And when you've got a band and you've got people you get along with and you gel with, it's family, man. There's nothing like it in the world. Totally understand. Now, this is the question that, you know, starts wars and, you know, causes earthquakes and all that good stuff. The most important question of the show that I surprise my guests with, at least the guest that doesn't watch the show, every week. And either of you can answer this. Drum roll. Elvis or the Beatles?
Beatles.
Beatles, right. We got 3 out of 3 there, fellas. That's awesome. Let's check out some of Larry Mitchell Band's music, and we'll be right back after this. Hello and welcome back to this edition of Minstrels on the Block. Special guest, the Larry Mitchell Band. So fellas, give me a little bit of backstory, I guess, information leading up to what you're doing now, but like, how did you guys come together?
I moved to Alabama to spend time with my mom. And when I got here, I booked a guitar clinic at the guitar shop in Auburn. And afterwards, I wanted to jam during the clinic.
All right.
And these guys got up. Everyone recommended them to jam, and had a great time. Yeah, I think me and Russ bonded instantly. I felt. I don't know how he feels, but it was great. They were here. It's the Southern band that's not from the South. I'm from New York, and they're from Jersey. But we met in Auburn, Alabama.
Very cool.
So that's how we met.
So, tell me a little bit about some of your current projects. What do you got going on now? You obviously have a CD. Tell me a little bit about
The
that.
new CD is called Rhythm of Life, and we're promoting that. We're touring. We've been touring a lot this year so far, and we have another big run coming up later this year, headed back to the East Coast. And we also have a new band called Southern Fried Funk, which we're gearing up for next year.
Yeah.
And that should be fun.
Cool. Now, a little bit about from you guys getting together, and I know, like, you know, there's probably a lot of musicians who watch this show, and it's great information from a variety of different musicians from all levels. Now, you guys tour a lot. Tell me a little bit about the story between y'all coming together as a band and getting to the point where you do all this touring.
I'll leave that to Russ.
Well, basically, we just really started rehearsing, and me and this guy had a band together called The Good Doctor, and
Oh yeah.
we've did a little bit of touring with that, and through that, I've maintained contacts with venues and stuff like that, and had a good business relationship with them, and contacted them about this project, and just let the project speak for itself, really. Like, just find good videos or good, audio clips, and just send them off and put your feelers out and go from there. And then you slowly build, adding venues, and then 1 week leads eventually to 2 weeks, and so on and so forth. And you got a month, and then another month. Before you know it, you're on the road for 3 months.
Wow.
But, it takes a lot of hard work to get there. It's a lot of emails and a lot of stuff, getting up early and making sure you're like, get these people in the morning, and,
Russ is pretty
got to have the
awesome at it.
business mentality next to the musician mentality.
Yeah, it's half business, man. There's a lot of time sitting at a desk and on the phone. I can imagine.
Yeah, it's kind of like Office Space sometimes. Just
Now, tell me a little bit about the recording of your CD. What went into that? Where did you record it? And
I have a studio here in Alabama.
cool.
And recorded most of the record at my studio, and we happen to be at a studio in Columbus called The Loft, working on another project, and Russ did some drum tracks there.
Very cool. Now, how'd you put your studio together? Because not every musician has a studio. A lot of people have recorders, but not everybody has a studio.
I've had a studio since the late 90s.
Very
And
cool.
I produce records as well. That's what I won a Grammy for. I won a Grammy for producing
Nice.
and engineering. And
Grammy, that's definitely notable. Talk about your Grammy.
wow, I won a Grammy for producing and engineering and playing on a Native American record in 2007.
Very cool.
But so I've been building a studio, getting different pieces of gear since the late 90s. And I have pretty cool, I have an old English board, a Trident Series 65 console, and some cool microphones and stuff,
Cool.
Just I do a lot of different projects.
That's awesome. Now, tell me a little bit about your writing. What do you write from? What inspires you?
I write from just the sounds. I like different sounds. Sometimes I pick up different guitars. Sometimes I write grooves by playing bass, and then I transfer it to a guitar when my fingers start to hurt. On this record, I wrote every time I came up with an idea, I would grab my cell phone and record that record on the cell phone. And then at the beginning of the year, I think it was March, I was headed to do a bunch of Native American stuff in Maryland and Virginia. And I worked up some ideas and took those with me and worked on it some more and narrowed that down to, I think I started almost 50 ideas, then narrowed down to 18.
Wow.
And then I got it down to 11, which 10 became what's on the record.
Very cool. And the last segment, we'll show you where you can get the CD. But let's go into a little bit about, you have when you're a kid, you got your teacher. Where will you be in 20 years? So where do you guys hope to get to? What's your goal? Where would you like to see yourself at, 5, 10 years from now?
I still want to be able to get up and play music. That's a major accomplishment every day. But festivals would be nice. I'd like to get back. I usually, this is the first year I can't remember that I haven't been to Europe doing. I usually tour as a sideman with different artists and stuff like that. So I'd like to bring this band to Europe and Scandinavia and Japan, and as well as playing a lot of the festivals in the country.
So what is your ultimate picture? I mean, some people will say, I want to be on the red carpet. What's your end game before you die?
I just want to continue playing.
Very cool. Just for the love of music.
Yeah, I would like to be able to do some festivals, like I said, and to be able to travel outside the country a couple of times a year. Great inspiration was Les Paul. I've gotten to jam with Les Paul twice in my life at the Iridium and Fat Tuesdays when you'd have guests and stuff like that. One was by design, the other one was just I happened to be there and not prepared, and Les brought me on stage and made fun of me. But he's a very funny guy. Awesome. Lots of funny jokes. But he had a weekly gig in his 90s. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
With an arm he couldn't bend, couldn't straighten out, and still played. You sit in with Les, you're thinking, cool. And then this man in his 90s would just rip you to verbally and then, of course, playing.
Nice.
So I would love to be able to play in my 90s. Have a weekly gig.
I'd love to be able to open my eyes in my 90s. How about you guys? What's your end game? Where do you want to see yourself at?
Go ahead.
Making some money to play music would be nice, and have a place to live. And I love touring and playing, and I would like to make some of my own records too, and have my own band and tour with as many people as I can, and just keep playing. Man, that's it.
Very cool. Russ?
My end game, like Larry, I'd like to be playing in my 90s, but I would love to see the world, playing music and get to do it with my closest friends. I think would be awesome.
Honest, straightforward, and unpretentious. Just natural desire to keep playing music till you're dead. That's awesome. Yeah. And hopefully that'll be a long, long time off.
Sometimes you have to go back to why you started it. Yeah. Just being able to play music is a major accomplishment.
Definitely so. Now, one thing before we go to another break. Let's just say you're walking around the house on a Sunday afternoon. What are you most likely to be listening to on the stereo, CD, or whatever? Because people's influence of what they listen to changes over the years frequently.
I've been listening to, I go in and out of listening to Emmylou Harris, Wrecking Ball, and Sarah, I can't remember her last name, from Nickel Creek. Her record's just great, just puts me in a great mood. I'm still a King's X fan, and Prince. I listen to a lot of different things. So,
very cool.
Yeah.
Bet you guys.
Man, I like a lot of poppy stuff. I like, I love Adele's records, and I think Amy Winehouse is awesome, and The Roots are one of my favorite bands. I listen to them a lot, and I still listen to a lot of punk rock, Operation Ivy, and stuff like that, and just whatever. Honestly, it depends, I guess, on frame of mind. Sometimes it's a Nine Inch Nails day, and sometimes it's a Dinah Washington day. You never know.
Russ, your turn.
Lately, I've been listening to Band of Gypsies like pretty much nonstop.
Cool.
So, a lot of Hendrix and Carl Denson, The Meters, and that's pretty much it. Michael Jackson. I love listening to Michael Jackson.
It's always a Michael Jackson.
Yeah, every day's a Michael Jackson day. I can deal with that. And the Beatles.
Oh yeah.
I love waking up and putting on some Beatles.
Very
You know.
cool. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's listen to some more of Larry Mitchell Band, and we'll be right back after this.
Step right up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Welcome to the greatest, well, second greatest show on earth.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Minstrels on the Block. Special guest, the Larry Mitchell Band. So guys, this is the part of the show where we pimp stuff. This is the pimping section of the show. So what do you have that you want to shamelessly self-promote for everybody to see? You got dates, you got a CD, give it all out there. Facebook?
Facebook is, or my website is www.larrymitchell.com. Facebook, you can just search my name, Larry Mitchell. And we all have Facebook pages. I don't know if everybody wants to friend everybody, but let's see, shameless promotion. Russ has a new snare drum. I think he wants to plug. But I've been his guitarist for 26 years, and this is my new guitar they just made for me.
Nice.
And I'm happy about that.
That's a beautiful guitar.
Thank you.
Tell us what's the name of your CD and where they can find it.
The name of the CD is Rhythm of Life. And you can go to my website or come see us play live is the best place to do it. You could also download it on iTunes or Amazon.com. It's on Spotify as well and Reverb Nation.
Very cool. Now a couple of questions before we close out. Now you've played all over the place. What do you, and I assume you're pretty familiar with the music scene around here. What do you think of the local music scene, especially having toured, so you've got a lot of experience with different music scenes around music in different cities. What do you think of our local music scene?
I'm close to Opelika and Auburn, and there's a cool little music scene going on in Auburn. It's hard to get, for me to fix it in because I keep going in and out of town. Plus, It changes when the school is in.
Right.
But right now, there's our friend Jason runs a jam on Tuesday nights at Stir in Auburn, and that's turned into like quite the gathering of people and players, and some really good players that come in. And we like going to Columbus. We like going to Soho and playing there, and the Loft has a scene going on. I've only been here for a few years, and I'm still trying to get totally involved in the scene. These guys have been here for longer, and they know the scene, the local music scene.
So how do you guys think that the local scene could be improved?
Cool. That was an interesting answer.
What would you like to see happen in around where you played in this area? Because you never know, you might spark an idea with somebody. You might, do some cool stuff.
I mean, honestly, I think that the scene, especially in Auburn and in the South in general, is not better, but easier to, it's easier to get paid and make money down here playing than it is in New York.
Really?
Or in Philly. Because until you get to a certain point playing in big cities, nobody really cares.
Right.
And then once you take it to the next step, it changes. But getting there, especially in a place like New York, is harder because there's just so much other stuff going on and there's so much more competition. Whereas I think down here, there's an appreciation for emerging artists. And, even in Auburn, like there's a lot of good bands in Auburn that have kind of moved on to doing cool stuff and still come back and play in Auburn. And, there's good venues to play at. The Loft, I think, is an awesome venue to play. There's a lot of cool places to play, even in towns where, you roll in and you don't think that there's going to be anything going on, and all of a sudden you turn a corner and there's like 8 bars with awesome stages and great sound systems and cool sound guys who know how to, who know what they're doing, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah. We played in Auburn the other night, and there was like a lot of things going on, a lot of bands playing in town.
Oh yeah. We just were in Auburn on Saturday night, and there was, there's bands everywhere. That's another thing too that you don't really get as much of up north, is that everywhere here has music. Even restaurants, like nice, fancy, upscale restaurants, we go in and play like our set and are like rocking in the corner while people are eating, $50 steaks, and that doesn't happen everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I think that the scene's pretty cool. There's a lot of stuff coming out now to be able to promote what's going on. There's a cool app called Bands in Town that promotes what's going on in town, and that kind of stuff I think will, especially as it picks up in popularity and more people buy into that, will really just help the scene promote itself.
Very cool. Now, one last question before we go and check out some more of your songs. And any of you guys can answer this. What advice would you give to an aspiring artist watching this show? Somebody sitting on the couch, hasn't played out yet, is getting started in the early phases of their career, being experienced musicians. What advice would you give? Hand down some wisdom.
Don't give up.
Yeah.
If you really truly believe in it, like, don't give up. You know, it's going to be hard. Anything in life that's really worth it, you got to work for it. So if you want to play music every day, like, you got to put a lot of time into it first, and then you can't give up. There's a lot of people that give up, you know, especially in music. So, and I think that goes across the board with a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
So if you just work really hard at it, you know, talent can only go so far, you know, talent, and then beyond that is hard work and how many hours you put in every day and that kind of stuff. And if you truly want to be a musician, you just got to be like, well, this is my purpose.
Yeah.
Instead of this is my career.
Yeah.
You know, what else would I be doing if I wasn't playing? If, you know, if I couldn't play drums, I don't know what I'd be doing. So, put it that way.
Great information, fellas. I appreciate it. Larry Mitchell.
Thank you.
Austin Solomon. Cool name, man. Russ Garner.
Thank
The
you.
Larry Mitchell Band. Hope you've enjoyed this edition of Minstrels on the Block. Hope you've gotten a lot out of it. I have. We'll see you next time, only on CTV EA. I'm Brian Mallard.
Bye.